Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Welcome, everyone. This is number 92 in our Learning Life Skills Together weekly Zoom meetings. And today I have with me Jan Michener from AHAH, and that is Arts Holding Hands and Hearts. That's where AHAH comes from. Jan has been with us before. When we were working on the first 2 of our skills, and now that we're working on the second 2 of our 4 skills, she's coming back to share some more. So, Jan, I think it would be great if you would lead us in a practice to get ourselves settled down and ready to think and talk and listen and all those good things.
You for inviting me back, and I would love to lead us in a little centering to be a little bit more present and here right now. So I invite you, and if you're sitting down, I invite you, if you can have both feet firmly on the floor, and if you want to stand up, you can do it standing up as well, whatever feels right for you right now. But if you just lift your toes up and then press the toes down and just lift your heels up and then press your heels down and then wiggle your toes and now just gently press your toes and your heels into the floor and feel the floor beneath you and allow yourself to be supported. Allow yourself to be right here, right now, being where your feet are. And then I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose, if that's available, and gently out through your lips as if you're blowing out a birthday candle. One more full, slow, deep breath in through the nose, and a slow, full breath out through the lips. And then I invite you to cross your hands at the wrist. And if you want to interlace your thumbs, and what we're going to do is do the butterfly landing. And it's the alternating tapping. And what you're tapping is the top of your K27 acupuncture point of your kidney meridian. You don't have to remember that. But when you're upset or you have anxiety or fears or worries, you start to get knots right here. And we're just gently tapping them and loosening them. You know, sometimes you ever feel like your shoulders are up to your ears, or you get that stiff neck or the head. It's where this has created knots. And what we're doing is just tapping. But we're going to also include what may have started those knots and that worry. You know, we're so often told, oh, don't think about it, just push it under the rug. I'm going to invite you to bring to your thoughts, what is it that keeps you up at night or that is swirling around your head and doesn't let you go to sleep at night? That maybe is causing those stiff neck and shoulders up to your ears, and bring it to the forefront now. Gently, calmly see that thought, and we'll take one more deep breath in and a slow breath out, letting it just be there. And then I invite you to notice what feelings or emotions are attached to those thoughts. And if you can, name it. I like to say, if you can name it, you can tame it. Take one more deep breath in through your nose and a slow breath out through your lips. And then gently say to yourself, even though I have this thought and I'm feeling these feelings, I choose to let them be so I can be here now. Take another deep breath in and a slow breath out. And then gently, now you're going to start thumping your thymus that boosts your immune system. And we're going to add sound to it. We're going to go, ah. And ah is the sound of creation. So as you're thumping and saying ah, visualize what would you like to feel to be right now in this moment. Maybe it's a little more calm, maybe it's more compassionate, maybe it's more at peace. Whatever it is, gently say it to yourself as you go ah. And now gently move your fingers as if you're playing a piano, playing your own song, your own tune. And now you're going to take those magic fingers and you're gently going to tap right underneath your breastplate, which is your spleen meridian. And you're gently going to go, ee. And when you do that, your mouth begins to smile. And it's a reminder of being present in the moment, to find joy, to see those moments of awe that are all around us if we wake up just to be in the moment as we go, ee. Now, gently underneath your eyes, very softly, gently to tap. And this is the top of your stomach meridian that helps you to digest your food and digest your thoughts. And gently say, mm, feeling that vibration in the back of your throat, in the back of your neck, which activates the vagus nerve, which calms the parasympathetic nervous system. One more time, go. Mm. And then take your arms out, giving yourself a big up and go. And then cross your arms and give yourself a hug, putting one hand underneath your armpit and the other on the shoulder. And just gently sway and gently say to yourself, it's okay. I got you. I'm here for you. And then switch, putting the other thumb on the other armpit and gently sway. Gently say, it's okay. I'm here. I'm here for you. And then just place both hands on your heart. Find one thing you're grateful for in this moment. Taking a full deep breath in, feeling that gratitude grow. And as you breathe out, feeling that gratitude spreading. One more deep breath in and out. Just notice how you feel after you're giving yourself a few moments to just be here, being supported, grounded, and loved.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Jan. And I'm going to be the stand-in for our audience who will probably be listening to this at all kinds of times and times in their lives. So, um, one thing, I didn't really want to talk after that. I wanted to just sort of settle in and be comfortable, comforted, comforting, all those things at once. Yeah, that was really nice. Um, so there's a sense, I think, for me of being ready now and being engaged. And, you know, I think my first thought was about other people because I was like, I wonder how people will feel when they're done. I wonder if they will feel like I do. So or what might be happening because anything could happen. Anything could come out of this. So we always need to keep that in mind is that, when we're shooting for, oh, well, let's get ourselves settled in. We might unsettle ourselves too. It just may happen. So however it is anybody is right now, it's all right. And you can say that to yourself again, you know. So yeah, it's really wonderful that you've come back, or that we've invited you back at this time and that you said yes. Because we talked last time about our skills of attention and emotion regulation. And we're building on those skills. We're always building up from being able to pay attention to what's actually happening in the present moment. We're building from there to be able to work with ourselves and our emotional state, that emotion regulation. And now we've been moving into this idea of, well, it's great to be able to calm yourself in a situation that's going to end, like, okay, we can get through this. I can do this. Now we're talking about how do I get through this very unsettled time that I'm having in my life that may go on for quite some time. What are the skills that I need? Well, I need attention. I need to come to the present moment as often as I can. I need to be able to, wow, look at me. I just made balloons lift off. But, I need to be able to work with myself and do that in a way that gives me a break from time to time and a healthy break. I mean, this idea of getting through tough times, there's lots of things we can do that aren't necessarily healthy that make us feel better temporarily. And I'll just leave that at that because it's not the kind of thing that we're talking about. We're really talking about, well, what is it that gives me a little bit of a break from myself, that lets me not be so squeezed so tight around how I feel? And one of the things, you and I have talked about before, which is to help other people to work towards some common goal with other people. That takes us out of ourselves because we're working for something larger. And AHA is spot on with this because the arts are another thing that does that for us. When I'm making something, when I'm putting my whole being, my whole self, my body and my mind to work to make something that's not me, you know, I've come out of myself. I've made a bigger space. And so when we can do that for ourselves over and over again, we can get through whatever life throws at us. And sometimes you have to be an adult to finally realize that that's how it works. And I love that AHA is doing that for kids and showing them how that works. So maybe before we get into the sort of the second skill of communicating, maybe you could talk a little bit about this idea of getting through tough times through making, among other things.
But it's also about um, we were meant to create and we were
Hmm.
meant to connect and creativity and creating things together or creating things to give to someone is about building that connection and about building that compassion. And everything we do can be creative. Is we do a cooking program for youth on probation. We also include the gardening work of, creating the food,
Oh,
that growing the food and then cooking the food, but cooking for each other and being aware, I may like spicy food, but you don't. So how do we create something that we would both like to eat and share together. And then when we are breaking the bread together, it's about, it's also breaking down the barriers that may be between us and being able to see each other, as I like to say, with new eyes, and finding we have more in common than we have that's different. And about being able to uh, to listen to each other, maybe to create music together, to move together. Our movement becomes a dance when we do it together, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we AHA brings expressive arts and mindfulness programs to youth that are incarcerated, and also to different groups living in different communities that have been marginalized. We have an incredible art therapist, Kathy Rinko, that does art therapy sessions, every week at Chester County Youth Center. That is the detention center here in Chester County for youth 10 to 18 years old. And um, uh, uh, and it's, as they'll even say, we do pebbles in the pond of what stood out for you after each workshop, and how so often they share how calm they feel afterwards. And also being able, when they're working, they go, we had no disagreements. We all worked
Mhm.
together. And then when we shared, being able to see using the same tools, maybe the same prompt, how we created things differently, and then hearing about what it means to us and each other as we create is very powerful of I'm not alone in what I'm feeling and I'm
Yeah.
experiencing. I say also it's about creating that sacred space where you can be seen and be heard, and to see and let others know I see you, I hear you, you matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, all of those things are ways that we connect with others, and that helps expand who we are, how we see ourselves, and makes that space that you're referring to there. And so making that space is maybe the other piece of this, the other skill around effectively communicating with others, you know.
And it's also, we always start with a community agreement and building the community agreement together of what does this group right now in this space need. And I call it what's said here is stays here, but I use the SAID. What what do you need? S, to feel supported, to feel safe. A, what do you need to feel appreciated and understood? And I, what do you need when you feel most in the flow, most inspired? When is that? What helps you get in the flow? And I got to say, so often they say working together.
Mm-hmm.
Doing an art piece or writing where you just, it's time passes by and you didn't even realize, it seems like it was just a few minutes and it's been our hour and a half workshop.
Yeah.
And D, what causes you to drop out, to get disengaged? And we look at that too,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Yeah.
part of what we agreed not to do. Like when you're feeling judged, I back off. So creating that judgment-free space, you know, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling someone's putting me down or laughing at me, we like to laugh together, but not laugh at each other,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's looking at, and we each need to be supported and appreciated in different ways. So it's to find out how I feel, what works for me, but see what you need. So can we find some common grounds of what we can all agree to that during the next hour and a half, this workshop, can we agree to do this for each other and
Yeah,
for ourselves?
wonderful. So one of the things that I'm thinking about always is the Learning Life Skills Together program is for parents and carers to work with ideas that help them and that their kids, the kids they care about and care for, could see, so that it's like, even if you don't go any further, if you just do these things, you are modeling them for the children. They're picking up on them and saying, yeah, that's how grown-ups do it. That's how it works. And then, of course, there's that second level where you're helping the kids understand. You're actually sharing that practice with them so that they sort of get the steps, get how it works. And so I'm thinking about that with these kinds of ways of engaging groups of youth as being, sort of transferable into how we could work as a family. I'm wondering if you see that as well. I suspect that there's a way of making that translation.
There is. AHA has been uh, besides the mindfulness and the expressive arts, tools and techniques, is we've also been incorporating, and we have from the beginning, but making it more uh, specific, the restorative practices, and especially for using them when there's conflict and
Mhm.
how to use them when there's first minor conflict so it doesn't blow up into a bigger conflict. And it's
Yes.
when it becomes the bigger that we use the escapism techniques that aren't healthy instead of using the tools that help us find that understanding. And instead of making the walls bigger, it builds the bridges where we can connect. And so it's the restorative practices of also taking responsibility for your actions, both your actions and your words, because as you know, even words are so powerful. We
Hmm.
see how powerful they are every day
Yeah.
of tearing people apart and being divisive rather than pulling people together. So it's if you don't mind, I'll share the five
Oh,
questions
that would be wonderful. Yeah.
that we use whenever there's a conflict, and we even have it written down, on these little, cards that we give to the youth, the teenagers that we work with as we're doing the restorative practice, and I keep it in my purse all the time because it's so easy when you're feeling calm to do it. But when you're starting to get upset, it's like, you know what? Let me pull out these cards. Let's do this together. And the first is, and you bring people together. First, you do it individually with if we see two people having a disagreement and we, would say, let's sit down and talk each person to see what happened. But it's not just what happened, it's what you were thinking and feeling. And so that's the first question. What happened and what were you thinking at the time of the incident? So it's not just telling, oh, my side of this is what happened, but the most important, what were you thinking at the time of this incident? Now that there's been a little bit of time separating the incident, what do you have you thought about since? So it's using that perspective, looking back at what happened. And the third is who has been affected by what happened. And a lot of times when we're working with kids, it's just the other person, just me and that person. And then we go, but who else was affected? And then awfully often finding maybe their parent, maybe their friends, you know, maybe their teacher. So it's seeing how your action, I call it's the web. It's not just
Mhm.
that one-on-one, it's the whole web of people that care is affected by what happened. And then asking, what about this has been the hardest? So often you find out the hardest is the hurt that has been caused, or the broken relationship, or the misunderstanding. And then finally, what do you think needs to be done to make things as right as possible? And let them come up with their ideas. So often, as adults, we come into the kids and you got to do this, you got to go say, I'm sorry, and it's
Right.
coming from us and not them, letting them create it. And then we
Good.
say, are you willing to, can we do a conference? Can we bring the other person in? But not only the other person, can we bring in the support? You have your support and they'll have their support. And let's go in a circle and hear what's from each person. And it's both the person that was hurt and the person that caused the harm gets to share. And it becomes very eye-opening. And then also the other people that were impacted by it as well get to share. And when the two people that had the conflict hear how it has affected them, it's very powerful. And then we start with first the person that was hurt and ask, what do you need to to um to make this as right as possible? And let them share. And then
Mhm.
the other, and then see what can they agree on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we break bread together.
And that's a really great thing to do. That when we're together in those kinds of ways, in those really domestic ways that are really about belonging. I mean, that's how we sort of learn what belonging is around a table.
We do.
Yeah,
We do.
yeah.
And it's also about being able to hold two things that are very uh it's I call it the duality of life, is that everyone has pain and suffering, and everyone has moments of joy and awe, and how to have them, and they can happen at the same time. We often feel that in our pain, we're going to be there, but the suffering is wanting things to be different than what they are. And so, how to accept with what it is right now. And even in that, those moments, find moments of joy and moments of gratitude and moments of wonder.
Yes. And so that brings us to, sort of the activity that goes with the idea of effective communication, which is simply belonging, and belonging in a way that is meaningful, because if you're not there, then things are not the same. If you don't show up for what it is that for the place or the thing or the organization or whatever it is that you belong to, somebody's going to call you up and say, where were you? We missed you. And that's the kind of belonging that helps your physical and mental health. We know how powerful that is, and how powerful on the other side of that duality things are. When we feel lonely, it's hard on us. It's hard on us physically and it's hard on us mentally. And so to have your kids that you care for and about, you know, have an understanding of what it means to belong and how you keep belonging going, which is what those 5 questions are about, right? How do we repair the rifts that we have? And people get afraid of that. And in point of fact, what we find, and again, there's a scientific literature about this, there are rifts and repairs in relationships. When we make the repair, the relationship gets stronger if we've really made the repair. And so that's part of that belonging piece too. We have to have that attention to the present moment. They're really showing up here and being willing to speak our truth and hear the other person's truth. We need to be able to work with our own emotions so we can hold what we feel while the other person is talking about what they feel. When you watch people, you see that doesn't always happen, right? And then to be able to get through the the bumps along the way and to come back to communicate openly, clearly, cleanly, and with care for the other person brings us into that belonging, which is really, when you get down to it, what we all want. I mean, we were born into relationship. There's no two ways about that. We're mammals. That happens. There are other people around when we get born. So it's what we are born to, it's what we thrive in. So that sort of brings us to the fullness of the 4 life skills, and they build to that point where we can belong. That's what we're all about, and that's what AHA is all about. And so I'm going to put you on the spot, Jan. So every time we come to the close of a weekly Zoom meeting, I ask my guest for a word of wisdom, a watchword. So could be a sentence, could be just one word. What would you leave us with to ponder on these
Loving kindness.
things? Okay. Yeah. That's that's not only the thing that we do to make it work, it's what comes out of it when it does.
And I would love to do um, how we end a lot of sessions is again putting your hand on your heart, taking another deep breath in and a slow breath out. And gently say after me, repeat after me, may I be kind to myself in this moment.
May I
May I be kind to myself in
in
this
this
moment.
moment.
May I accept this moment exactly the way it is.
May I accept this moment exactly the way it is.
May I accept myself exactly the way I am in this moment.
May I accept myself exactly the way I am in this moment.
May I give myself all the love, compassion, forgiveness, and tenderness I need in this moment.
May I give myself all the love, compassion, tender,
Forgiveness
and forgiveness
and
that I
tenderness.
need in this moment.
Take a deep breath in and a slow breath out.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.